astray, caught up in the games they play. High-speed chases gone awry, serious turns into pie in the sky. Just out of jurisdiction, laughter and a conviction. Beneath the badge in this guy.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode. We've got a first for us today, so hopefully everything goes according to plan. We're doing a remote interview today over the phone, so hopefully we have no technical difficulties and no gremlins in the system. You know, you can't feed them after dark. Can't get them wet. But.
This will be a fun one. I'm looking forward to this. Doug's with us again, so
we're just gonna bring Doug on full time. I think he put him on payroll. None of us make any money, so it's easy to do.
So we're excited. Doug, tell us how y'all met, so that way we can before we introduce Chris.
Well, when I got hired as the CSO up at the courthouse in London, they send you to training for 40 hours. It's a training. It's at FLETC, which is the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center down in what's the name of that town? Somewhere. Savannah, Georgia. It's in that area somewhere.
Georgia.
What?
Glencoe, Georgia.
Glencoe.
Yeah. But anyway, I got down there and just happened to introducing ourselves and got to talking to Chris. He'd stand out in the parking lot in the evenings, and I would too. Talk about things. Kind of remind me of the King of the Hill kind of guy.
Yep.
Just standing out in the parking lot talking.
Yep.
But that's how I got to know Chris, and he's just a great guy, and we done a lot of things together while we was down there, and but I'll let Chris take it from there.
So we've got our guest tonight. It's coming all the way from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. It's Christopher Mann. Chris, how you doing?
Doing good. How you?
We're all right. We're here. We're kicking. That's all we can ask for.
Above ground, brother.
Yeah.
So tell us about how you got into the military. Tell us what all you did there, and
looking at his background here, he's been serving the community or serving the country since Genesis. So.
I come from Oakdale, Louisiana. That's my hometown, born and raised, and graduated from Oakdale High School in May of '75. And shortly after that, 12 days later, I went active duty in the United States Air Force as a law enforcement specialist.
So what made you choose the Air Force as a?
I just I found it where I wanted to be.
He was smart.
Yeah, he was smarter than everybody else. So.
I didn't really want to see a lot of action like the Marines or anything like that, But
I know. I get it. You're a smarter person than the bullet sponges.
My father, he retired out of the Army as a lieutenant colonel. And my oldest brother, he was in the Army as military police. My daddy was infantry. He was in World War II over in Iwo Jima.
Oh, that's awesome. So it runs in the blood.
Yeah, I guess kind of the only one. I got two brothers. One of them, like I said, my oldest one went in the Army, and my middle-aged brother, he didn't go in the service. He chose the civilian path. But like I said, I went out to duty June the 12th of '75, and actually June the 13th of '75, and I did my basic training, law enforcement training, and combat training at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas. And when I finished up there with training, I was assigned to Eglin Air Force Base, Fort Walton Beach, Florida. I served over there from 1975 to 1978. And after that, I was supposed to go to Hickam Air Force Base, Hawaii, and I ended up in Kunsan, Korea.
That's
got you.
You got the short end of the stick on that one, didn't you?
747 took the wrong turn somewhere.
It kept going.
Everybody that had been there for like 3 years or more, all of a sudden started getting orders to Minot and Thule, Greenland, and places you didn't want to be necessarily. So I went down to personnel and I put in an overseas preference. And I guess it was about a month after that, they sent me orders to Hickam Air Force Base, Hawaii. But it was a 2-year tour, and I only had a year left in service. So they told me if I wanted it, I would have to extend a year. So I extended that year to accept the tour. And 2 weeks after I extended, they canceled my orders.
That's the way they do it.
So my colonel told me that a married couple had bumped me out of the assignment. And he told me to wait about 2 weeks before I bought my stuff back. I had already sold everything, getting ready to go to Hawaii. And he told me to wait about 2 weeks because they might reinstate my orders. So I waited 2 weeks and nothing happened. I didn't hear nothing. So I went out and bought probably twice the stuff I had before. It was stereo equipment and what have you. And 2 days later, I get orders to Kunsan, Korea. And so I got to thinking, that assignment was a 12-month assignment, and I was going to take a 30-day leave, so that would only leave me with 11 months left in service. My colonel told me that my extension was canceled as soon as that Hickam assignment was canceled. So I said, well, I ain't tell nothing now, probably, because they'll probably cancel these orders too when they realize I only got 11 months left in service because it's a 12-month tour. And so time went on and I packed my bags and I went to Kunsan, Korea. And when I got over there, I walked into personnel and I said, what's the deal here? I said, y'all gonna give me an early out and separate me at port or what? And the sergeant looked at me. He said, what do you mean early out? I said, this is a 12-month tour. I only got 11 months left in service. He said, no, sir, you got a year and 11 months.
Surprise.
They kept getting you.
I said, no. I said, I got 11 months left. And he said, yeah, but you extended the year. I said, yeah, that was to go to Hawaii. Where's the palm trees at? and I said, no. I said, seriously. I said, my colonel told me that that my extension was canceled when that Hickam Air Force Base assignment was canceled. He said, sorry, Charlie, don't work like that. And he said, once you extend, you got 30 days to cancel the extension yourself, or you're in for the duration of the extension. So he said, well, you probably can get out of it, considering the circumstances. He said, but you go through a lot of red tape doing it. He said, so basically your choices are you can stay over here for a year and 11 months, and we'll separate you and you're free to fly home. Or you can stay over here for 12 months and go back to the States for 11 months. And so I left Kunsan, Korea so fast I left in a helicopter. that was probably one of the absolute worst places I ever been. It's nasty and filthy, and it's a war zone. You know, and now the capital of Korea, Seoul is really nice. But as far as Kunsan, when I did my 12 months over there, the Freedom Bird, what we call the Freedom Bird, was a 747. It flew out of Osan, Korea, which is, I guess, about a 2-hour helicopter ride. And one of my buddies was a warrant officer, a helicopter pilot, and he was flying to Osan the same day I out processed. And I said, hold up, I'm going to get my duffel bag and I'm coming with you. And the Freedom Bird didn't leave till like 3 days later. And he said, he had told me that. He said, the Freedom Bird don't leave till 3 more days. I said, that's all right. I'll be out of here. I'll be in Oakland. That's how I left Korea. I flew with him to Osan and stayed in guest housing over there until that 747 took us home. And then from there, I come back to my hometown in Oakdale, and my middle-aged brother, he was instrument technician over in Beaumont, Texas at the time. And he had called me on a Wednesday and asked me if I wanted to go to work with him. And his boss wanted to hire me. And well, I had called him that Wednesday. He had told me that before I got out of service, and I called him that Wednesday. I said, check with your boss again and see if he wants to still hire me. I said, I'll come down there this weekend and start to work Monday morning. So he called me back and he said, yeah, he still wants to hire you. And I said, all right. I said, tell him I'll be there Monday morning. Well, Thursday morning, the chief of police in my hometown, he called me and told me that he had lost 3 city officers to the state police, and said he was short on people and he needed somebody he could put on the road right now. And now I hadn't even been by the police station or put in an application or anything else at that point. He said, I know you just got out of the military police. You've been in there for 5 years. And he said, I need somebody I can put on the road right now. And I said, well, I don't know, Chief. I said, I got a guaranteed job starting Monday morning. He said, where's that at? I said, in Beaumont, Texas. I'll be working with my brother. And he said, what do you know about IT, man? He said, you've been in law enforcement for the last 5 years. He said, why don't you come on and come to work with us? And I said, well, I don't know, Steve. I'm going to have to think about that. I said, if I was to tell you yes, I said, when I start? When would I start? He said, tonight at 10 o'clock.
That's quick.
Yeah. Short notice for you.
I said, well, that's pretty quick. All right. I said, man, I don't have a uniform or anything else. He said, oh, don't worry about no uniform, son. He said, put on some blue jeans and I'll have a uniform shirt for you when you get here. And so I went on with the hometown police and kind of in the blood then, you know, being in military police for 5 years. And so I stayed with Oakdale City Police for 2 years from 1980 to 82, actually 83. And then I got and I had a friend of mine that he had started out with Oakdale too, and he was working with a Lafayette Sheriff's Office in Lafayette, Louisiana. So one day he had took a mental patient to Pineville, Louisiana, from Lafayette, and he come through Oakdale going back to Lafayette, and he talked me into going to Lafayette with him. So I went to Lafayette Sheriff's Office in 83, and Pro Division, and I stayed down there till '93. We had some assignment during them 10 years. I've been in a couple of hostage situations and barricaded suspects and stuff like that. I guess the worst night we ever had that I can remember was we was working the wiki, and it started off Friday night. It was a Friday the 13th, a full moon, and a payday wiki.
Oh, no.
That's the worst combination.
And we started off from the house running code that Friday night on emergency calls, and we ended the shift Saturday morning still running code, and day shift come on running code to relieve us Saturday morning. We had 6 actual shootings that night.
Oh, gosh.
Wow.
Now, let me back up here. This is what county?
It's Lafayette Parish.
Parish, yeah, they call them. And what's the big city there? Is that like?
Well, the biggest city there would be Lafayette.
Okay, yeah.
What was the population back then? Is it?
I don't really know. I would say maybe 50,000, a little bit bigger. It's not as big as Baton Rouge, but it's getting that way now. But it was probably 75,000, somewhere around there, I guess, at the time. But we was rocking and rolling pretty much nonstop. And like I say, that Friday night we had six actual shootings. There for a minute, we had a shooting call on hold that we didn't have nobody to respond to it. So that Saturday morning when I got off, I had and I guess I was down to like 6 reports, and so I worked on my reports for a little while before I went to bed that Saturday morning, and went to sleep, woke up, did it again Saturday night. Saturday night was the same thing all over as Friday night. And Sunday morning come along, I was down about 5 reports from Saturday night. Now I'm down to like 11 reports. And so again, Saturday morning, I worked on some of my reports for a couple of hours before I went to sleep that Sunday morning. And I said, well, this is Sunday. I said, it'll be quiet tonight. I said, I'll finish all this at work tonight. And
dangerous word right there, quiet.
Yeah, I went to bed, and I guess it was about 12:30 noon. Somebody was banging on my door, and I opened up the door, and guy was hollering. I lived in a trailer park at the time. The guy was hollering, "You the sheriff? You the sheriff?" I said, "Well, I'm not the sheriff, but I work for him." I said, "What you got?" He said, "We got a black guy holding 2 females hostage at gunpoint over here." And I said, "Yeah, that's about right." And I told him, I said, "Hold on a minute." I said, "I'll be with you in just a minute." So I put my bulletproof vest on and put my sheriff's office jacket on, and I called the office and knew the dispatcher pretty well that was dispatching. And I told him what I had. I didn't know it at the time because I hadn't turned my radio on at this point. But they had a rescue operation in progress when I called. And I told the radio operator what I had. Told him I had a situation to give me some backup. So I jumped in my unit, called 10-8 en route, and I was following the complainant to where the suspect's house was. And he pulls up and stopped. I pulled up and stopped behind him. I got out of my car, and it was trailers on both sides of the road. I said, okay. I said, where's this guy live at? I said, where's this guy at, man? And he pointed to the trailer right in front of my car. He said, he's right there. I said, well, thanks for the warning, partner. We went in his trailer, which was across the street, and that the hostage taker called the complaint. He called the complainant on the phone, and he said, "You tell the sheriff's office that I said get out of here right now, or I'll start killing people." And I said, well, this is not good. And it was two, mother and daughter that was inside the trailer as hostage. And, so I told I had my portable radio with me. I told the day shift lieutenant what this guy said, that he was going to start killing people. So what we did is I gave they had command posts set up, going in the park, and I gave that guy, my sheriff's office guy, give him the keys to my unit, and I told him to go take it up to the command post at the entrance to the trailer and turn it over to one of the deputies. Turn the car over to one of the deputies out there. And so that's what he did. It took us 6.5 hours. The hostage negotiator finally talked the guy out, but it took us 6.5 hours to do that.
That's a long time to talk to anybody.
Yeah, that it is. But it ended up well. I mean, one of the hostages got out the back door of the trailer, the daughter did, and then the hostage negotiator talked him into letting the mother go. So it come out without anybody getting hurt or killed. So that was a good thing.
That's the best resolution you can get. Hey guys, I just want to take a moment and thank our sponsor. We've got Ascend Wellness. It's a family-owned mental health practice in London, Kentucky. They've got over 65 years of combined experience. They specialize in trauma-focused care, offering EMDR therapy for first responders and others impacted by traumatic events. If you're not familiar with that, a lot of our guys have taken the time to do that type of therapy. And it really allows you to kind of get your mind wrapped around the trauma that you may or may not know that you're holding on to. It's helped a lot of the guys that we know. Travis himself has done it and swears by it. Said that he opened up to things he didn't even know that was bothering him. So definitely something you might want to check out. Services include individual, marriage, and family counseling. Let's be honest, as first responders, our marriages, our families sometimes take a second seat or a back seat to the job. So I can't imagine that any of us would ever need marriage counseling or anything to fix the problems at home. Hopefully you don't, but if you do, they're good at what they do, so they can help you out there. Family counseling, MAT, substance abuse counseling, parenting classes, supervised visitation, and medication management, all delivered in a supportive, client-centered environment. They are located at 148 Commercial Drive in London, Kentucky, and Ascend Wellness is here to help you rise. If you are interested in visiting or contacting them, you can find them at ascendwellness.org or call 606-260-8532.
Yes, sir. Absolutely is. And so that's how that Sunday night started.
Then
So
you went on shift.
Wasn't going to be quiet then, huh?
So, like I say, I stayed with Lafayette for 10 years, and then I come down to East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office. Well, I stayed actually with Sheriff's Office until '85, and then I took a sergeant position with Broussard City Police, and I stayed with them until '93, and then I come over to East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office. They was paying a little bit better, so I joined them. Stayed in the uniform patrol for the first 5 years. Second 5 years, I did in traffic. I've seen some excitement also with East Baton Rouge when I was in uniform patrol. One of them comes to my mind back in Lafayette when I was with Lafayette. They called me out a roll call one night on a call, and the fuel pumps was outside, right outside the building where we do roll call at. So I was training a deputy, guy by the name of Glenn. I don't remember his last name, but that was his first night full time in the unit. And they called us out of roll call to subdivision down there in Lafayette called Orangewood subdivision. It was just a routine speak to deputy call. So I filled my car up before I left the building with where the roll call was, and we took off heading for Orangewood subdivision. And Glenn started telling me about he rode quite a few hours with the reserve division. And he started telling me about the different calls he had been on and this and that. And I said, well, that's good. At least it's not like your very first night in the unit, you know, and you've been on different calls and what have you. Well, by the time I said that, they called me back and said, disregard that previous call, said, we need you en route. It was the same subdivision. We need you en route to such and such Orangewood Boulevard, that we got a rape in progress and your victim is 11 years old. Mm. I said, okay, yeah, en route. So Glenn said, well, this ought to be interesting. He said, I've never been on one of these before. I said, yeah, it might be. we took off lights and sirens, and when I got within hearing distance of Orangewood subdivision, I cut my siren off, and when I got within visual distance of it, I shut my lights off and turned into the subdivision. It was like in the 800 block. I probably could still take you to the house to this day. It was in the 800 block, and like I say, I had all my lights off. We had brake kill switches and everything, and had brake kill lights on. And I got down to about the 700 block. When I turned off Orangewood, it's off of Johnson Street. So when I turned off of Johnson Street on the Orangewood Boulevard, I seen headlights turn behind me. Vehicle coming in behind me, and I got down to about 700 block and stopped. That it was a pickup truck stopped behind me, and a female jumped out of the passenger side and said, "That's my sister in the house." Said her name's Rachel. Call her by her name. And I said, "Okay." I said, "Is anybody else in the house besides her?" She said, "No, she's the only one in the house." I said, "All right." I said, "Y'all just stay right here behind my car until we get everything straightened out." So me and Glenn approached the house. We had backup coming, but backup was about I don't know, probably about 20 miles away.
Now, in that area, was it sectored off in that? in the parish? Did you have sectors that you were responsible for, or was it just kind of first come, first serve for?
No, we had different sectors. You had I don't remember exactly. It was I think like 8 sectors. It was divided up between North Lafayette, South Lafayette, and Central Lafayette. I guess you would describe this as Central Lafayette. Johnson Street is kind of the dividing line between North and South. And so we go up to the house, and it's a open carport. It had a car underneath the carport, and the engine was warm. The hood was warm. So we walked around the house first to make sure it wasn't no forced entry or anything like that. Come back under the carport. The door was on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, they had a kitchen window, and the curtains was open where you could see inside the house. So I was standing to the left of the door in case somebody shot through the door or something. And Glenn was standing to my left. Now I was used to being by myself. Glenn was one of the first deputies I trained. So I was looking through this window, and I was knocking on the door at the same time, and I knocked on the door and I hollered Rachel, and I didn't get no response. And I knocked on the door the second time, and I hollered Rachel again, and I didn't get no response. And I knocked on the door the third time and hollered sheriff's office. And about that time, I seen this guy with a 12-gauge shotgun walking towards this window from inside the house. Well, the first thing hit my mind, ain't nobody supposed to be in there but her. So I jumped across the hood of the car that was under the carport, and Glenn seen the shotgun about the same time I did, and he hollered gun. Well, when he hollered gun, I was on the other side of the car. And so he jumped the hood behind me, and this guy come to the door, and he opened up the door, and he started coming down with that shotgun, and I was behind the hood of that car. We was carrying a .357 Magnum then, old 6-shooter. And when he started coming down with that shotgun, I started pulling the trigger back, hollering at him. Sheriff's office dropped the gun. And he couldn't see nothing but my head. I had my body behind the wheel well, and he started coming down and kept coming down, and I pulled that trigger. If y'all familiar with that with the old 6-shooters, Smith and Wesson, when you start pulling that trigger back, it's got 2 clicks on it before it fires. And I pulled that trigger all the way back to the second click. And, at that point, if you breathe on that trigger, it's going to go off. And when I got to that point, when I got to that second click, luckily he threw that gun down. So I eased the hammer back down. He was trying to tell me something, but I wasn't giving him enough time to tell me. I was interested in him dropping that shotgun. But what he was trying to tell me that he was the Rachel's brother. And, so what it ended up being is that the girl was home by herself, and somebody called over there and asked if Christine was there. Christine was the older sister that was in the truck. And, she said, no, she's not here. And he said, well, I'm going to come over and help you. And hung up the phone. So she called her mother, and the mother called the brother, and the brother called the daddy. And by the time it got to the sheriff's department, it was a rape in progress.
Yeah, so through the telephone game, information
got the brother shot.
Yeah.
Gets more dramatic as it goes on. Yeah.
Jeez.
I've noticed that happens quite frequently between the public and dispatch. By the time it actually gets to the officer, the information may or may not be accurate or bigger than what it is.
So it turned out it was a brother. He kept him at gunpoint and showed him, brought him in. He had his wallet in his dresser drawer in his bedroom. I said that you better make sure that's the only thing you pull out, because if you don't, it's going to be the last thing you pull out.
That was a close call there.
Yeah, it was a butt puckering moment for both of you.
You know, all that, I tell you when all that bothered me is when I got in my car and started driving away from the sea. That's when it really got to me. Realizing how close I come to killing somebody innocent. But yeah, that's part of the job. Luckily, it didn't end like that. When we started driving away, and I started shaking a little bit, and Glenn said, "Man," he said, "I thought you was fixing to shoot that guy." And I said, "Well, I thought you'd probably shot him." And he said, "No, dude, I was waiting on you to shoot him."
Well,
thanks, man.
I was waiting on you to shoot. I said, well, "Don't wait on me to shoot, man."
Yeah, that's never something you wanna hear with your backup. I was waiting on you.
How long did Glenn stay with it?
And I told him, don't wait on me, partner. I said, if you think you justified in shooting, shoot.
Yeah, it's a good lesson. Did he stick with it? Did he stay with policing?
Yeah. He stayed with it as far as I know. Like I said, I left. It had been a good while, I guess, a year or so after that, and went to East Baton Rouge. But as far as I know, he stayed with it. East Baton Rouge, I've seen some action down here. There again, I've been in a couple of barricaded gunman situations, a couple of hostage situations. With uniform patrol. Like I said, I stayed with them for 5 years to start with, and for traffic, 5 years after that.
Now, doing military police and then civilian police, was it an odd transition to go from police and military to police and civilians?
Well, not really. I mean, back then you had law enforcement, then you had security police. I was in the law enforcement side. Security police, all they did was guarded the runways, basically. They guarded the runways for the fighter jets and stuff like that. If you had an installation that had nuclear weapons, they guarded that. Basically, we was base police, which is just like city police. You responding to traffic accidents, domestic disturbances, burglaries, everything you see with the city police.
So it's all the same calls for service, just on a different kind of campus.
Right. And you're on a federal property, a military installation versus the city or county or whatever. But it's the same type of calls you would get in city police or county. I never really had I've never really been involved. Military police, I've never really been involved in standoffs and stuff like that. That rarely happens on a military installation. It does happen now. Back then it didn't.
You get your fair share of domestics and fights at the E-clubs and stuff like that. And not that I was ever involved, but still.
non-commissioned officers club, NCO club, and officers clubs on the base, and every now and then you'll have fights like that at the bar, and have to respond to that. The only serious thing that I got into really was in Korea. We had I was base police, but we had a division called Town Patrol, and they patrolled the town for military personnel mainly. And they had our office downtown in the village, and they had our guys, Air Force, law enforcement, and they had 82nd Airborne Military Police, Army, together down there. And all of them guys with 82nd Airborne, I believe, was black belts in karate. And they had a total of 7 of them, combined Air Force police and the military police. And one night they called for base police backup. So I knew when they called for base police backup, I knew they would. It wasn't a fun time. We loaded a pickup truck full of military police and law enforcement side, and responded down there. And why they didn't shoot this guy, I don't know. They should have. But when I pulled up down there, it was 7 officers laying on the ground. And one guy standing there. And I got out of my truck with that M16. And when I started getting out of my truck, he got down in the karate stance. And I'm looking at 7 officers on the ground hurt. And when he got down to that karate stance, I had him at gunpoint with that M16. I said, "Partner, I'll cut you in half." That's how we arrested him. But how that started, it was one of our sergeants that was walking by himself. He had went to get him a pack of cigarettes at the store or something, and he was walking back to the office. And he run into this dude. He was a military guy, and but he was karate expert. And this guy was drunk, causing a disturbance in the streets. So normally it would be one Air Force and one 82nd Airborne walking together, but he was by himself because, like I say, he was just going to get a pack of cigarettes and come back. And so he runs into this guy and he tells him, "Look, partner," he said, won't you do me a favor and get on the bus and go back to base?" They had a bus that run in between the base and town, back and forth. And he said, "Won't you do me a favor and get on the bus and go back to base?" He said, "You too drunk to be out here on the street." And he said, "F you." And Sergeant said, "Look, man," he said, "I'm not asking for no problem." He said, "Just get on the bus and go back to base." And dude told him again, "F you." And Sergeant reached for his nightstick, and before he could pull it out, that guy kicked him with a roundhouse.
He Chuck Norris him.
He almost killed him.
Man.
Yeah, he put him. He was in critical condition. They had him medevac him back to the States.
Wow.
But he laid all 7 of them out there. Like I said, I'd have been there. I guarantee you, I would have shot him.
I ain't getting knocked out.
That's called wisdom right there.
Yeah.
I pull up the scene and there's 2 or 3 police officers laying on the ground. Your days are numbered. I'm not fighting you, that's for sure.
Yeah, I've done seen what can happen. I'm not taking that chance.
Wow.
But East Baton Rouge, like I say, we had some action down here too. Several hostage negotiations, barricaded gunmen. I was in one shooting one night. That was a pretty bad night. It was a state trooper that clocked this car speeding. And this happened about, I guess, probably 50, 60 miles out of Baton Rouge, down below a place called Covington. And he clocks his car speeding now. Keep in mind, this is before the mobile data terminals and computers in the cars and what have you. So this trooper clocks his car speeding, and he pulls up behind him and runs the plate for restoration stolen. And the plate comes back to a brown Pontiac Bonneville, and he sees a blue Honda Accord. So he said, well, something ain't right here, So he turns on his lights, and when he turns on his lights, the passenger leans out the window and starts shooting at him. And the driver puts it to the floor and takes off. And they come down Interstate 55 to I-12, and when they got to I-12, a state trooper had the entrance ramp blocked off, and he hit his car in the front end and knocked him out of the road and kept going. And they got on I-12 coming into Baton Rouge, and of course we didn't know all of this had happened. But they got on I-12 coming into Baton Rouge, and a tractor trailer driver had called that trooper on the CB. He said, "Look, buddy," he said, "I'm out here on I-12, probably about 2-3 miles ahead of y'all." He said, y'all need any help stopping this old boy? You just let me know." And that trooper says, "When you see us coming, stop them." He said, "I don't care how you stop them, stop them." And that trooper said they were doing 125 miles an hour in the left lane. And and they seen that tractor trailer in the right lane. And right before that the violator got to him, that tractor trailer pulled in front of him in that left lane. And he said that guy slammed on the brakes and slowed down to about 85 miles an hour, and he jumped off in the median and passed that tractor trailer in the median and come up and never looked back. Well, they come down to Baton Rouge, and coming into Baton Rouge, you got the Amy River Bridge. It's a 2-lane each way, 2-lane east, 2-lane west. A state trooper had that bridge blocked off, and he did the same thing to him. He hit him in the front end and kept coming. And so I had come out of a place called Forest Park, and not too far, they called Baton Rouge for assistance. And so I got on I-12, and I was sitting under the Millerville overpass, which is the next exit down, and 2 exits down actually. And I seen him. I was underneath the overpass, and I seen him coming in my rearview mirror, and I guess the guy saw the reflective signs of my car, and he turned off onto Millerville. So he goes down Millerville. Of course, we can't turn around because it's a retaining wall in between the east and westbound lane. So I took off to the next exit down, which is Sherwood Forest. And that guy had went down Millerville to Old Hammond Highway, which Old Hammond Highway parallels I-12. And he almost hit one of our traffic units head on at the intersection of Old Hammond and Millerville. So we get down to Sherwood Forest and we take a right heading towards them. Get to Old Hammond and we turn right heading towards them. And me and a state trooper had passed me when I was on I-12. And we got down on Old Hammond Highway and we set up a roadblock. I had my car on the right lane and he had his on the left lane. And we down below our cars with our guns. He had a shotgun, and we was carrying a 10mm Smith and Wesson at the time. And
that's a round to stop somebody.
Yeah, they started coming at us and started shooting out the window. And I fired twice at the driver, and that trooper, he unloaded with that 12-gauge double-aught buck. He fired 4 rounds at the car with that double-aught buck, and we knew he wasn't going to stop. He tried to go around the driver's side of the trooper's car first of all, but it was about a 6-foot ditch there. And when he seen the ditch, he headed for the opening in between my car and that trooper's car, which we didn't leave him enough room to get by us. And he hit the driver's side of my unit and took the whole driver's side off. I didn't know it at the time because we had jumped off the highway. And when he come through us and the units come through, I started running for my unit. I wasn't jumping it and enjoying the pursuit. I got to the driver's side, and there wasn't no driver's side.
They charge him with theft of a vehicle that way too. Theft of a driver's side.
It was just all glass and metal, and so that trooper come over to me, and he said that I didn't know who the trooper was at the time, and he said, "That son of a bitch tried to kill us," and I said, "Yeah, tell me. And so he went to his unit and put his shotgun up, and he called his lieutenant. So the lieutenant, which is, they were from another troop. They wasn't even from the Baton Rouge troop. He called his lieutenant and he said, "Hey, Lou," he said, "you know that pursuit we had going on?" I couldn't hear what the lieutenant was saying. All I could hear was the trooper. And he said, "Man," he said, "we got a hell of a deal down here in Baton Rouge." He said, "That dude," he said, "with me and this deputy," he said, "I don't know who this deputy is." He said, "We never met each other, but," he said, "I guarantee you we'll never forget each other." We had a roadblock set up, and he said, "That son of a bitch come through and tried to kill both of us." He said, he shook his head. He said, yeah. He said, "Both of them shot at him when he come through." And he said, "They still chasing him." And they got about, I guess, another maybe 5 miles, and the car was so tore up that he finally had to stop. But it ended up being, the driver was a 20-year-old Los Angeles Crips street gang member, and the passenger was a 17-year-old wannabe. He wasn't actually a gang member, but he was in the initiation phase of becoming one. But the real reason they was running was they had robbed a store in Ascension Parish, which is probably about 20 miles out of Baton Rouge, and they shot the clerk. But we didn't know all this, you know, when the pursuit was going on. We found out all that afterwards. But that's the real reason that they was running. So they probably won't see sunlight again. They were charged with several counts of attempted first-degree murder of police and attempted murder of that cashier and armed robbery and a bunch of charges.
Wow.
But
And no seatbelt.
And no seatbelt. Yeah.
No seatbelt. Yeah.
Was there a lot of gang activity in that area at that time?
no, well, not really. It was unusual for somebody to be down here from L.A. We have one black section down in Baton Rouge when. That was back when the Crips and the Bloods was real big gang fighting in L.A. And like I said, we got a black section down here in Baton Rouge, and they was wanting to be the Crips and the Bloods also. They called themselves the Crips and the Bloods, and they would fight amongst one another, kill one another, shoot one another, and stuff like that. But I mean, it did happen, but that was our own clientele. There wasn't nobody from L.A. That, like I say, that was kind of unusual for that to happen. I guess it was just out joyriding, trying to make that dude part of the game.
I guess he passed his initiation phase with that little ordeal.
He's a blood member or Crip member in prison, though.
Yeah. I don't think they'll be out for quite some time if they get out at all. They lucky they didn't lose their lives. The two rounds that I fired, one round went through the hood of the car, went through the firewall into the car. And the other round went through the windshield and went through the driver's headrest.
Wow.
So the driver was low riding.
he saw that hand cannon, that shotgun. He got low. So
well, that 10 millimeter was so powerful. Actually, it was breaking parts inside the gun. That's why we quit using it.
Yeah.
And that 10 millimeter works.
Yeah.
Like I said, they was very lucky they survived that. We had I wasn't working, but I'm sure y'all heard about it up there in 2016. We had an ambush. Ambush on law enforcement. We lost two city police officers and 3 sheriff's deputies.
I remember that.
I remember.
Yeah.
That was real close to the time when those guys in Dallas got ambushed too, wasn't it? All during that time frame.
That was Alex Sterling deal. They had the police had killed Alex Sterling, and that's what caused all that. This guy that initiated this ambush on law enforcement down here in Baton Rouge, he was from Missouri, and he drove all the way from Missouri to carry that out.
Wow.
But all of them guys that got killed down there, I worked with every one of them.
Man.
Wow.
So that was a bad deal, and we had another officer just died today, city police motor officer. He passed away today. A black guy intentionally run over him on his motorcycle, and that happened a couple of weeks ago, and he had been in intensive care ever since. They amputated both of his legs trying to save him, and lost his life today on it.
Was he retired? Was he still the police?
No, he was active. He was on his way home from a shift on his motorcycle.
Wow.
And this guy, like I say, intentionally hit him. He admitted hatred for law enforcement. Yeah, that it is. But It's been quite a ride. Like I said, I stayed with VBR, East Baton Parish, Uniform Patrol, 5 years, traffic, 5 years. Traffic, we didn't really see that much action. We saw a lot of fatality accidents. I was on the fatality team. Anybody got, anytime anybody got killed,
You had to go and reconstruct it. And
yeah, we was reconstruction, had to go out and reconstruct it and all that good stuff. And after that, I went on with State Police, Department of Public Safety, and I spent 16 and a half years with them. I retired with Department of Public Safety. And then
I guess you were with them when Hurricane Katrina happened then, huh?
Yeah, I was. I was in Lafayette. We had in 16, we also, it wasn't a hurricane, but it was a real bad rainstorm that flooded Baton Rouge. It flooded Baton Rouge. It didn't flood where my house is, but probably 90% of Baton Rouge flooded.
Wow.
And that was in 2016. I've been through a Hurricane Andrew.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, Andrew. I was in Lafayette when that happened, and I was in a 1-ton high-rise water vehicle in case the water come up. We was 10-8 for 30 hours.
Jeez. That was the one that went through like Miami and then up, right?
Yeah. It hit New Iberia pretty hard, which is New Iberia, I guess, is about 10, 15 miles south of Lafayette. Mm-hmm. And like I say, that was the longest I've probably been 10-8. Is I was 10-8 for 30 hours straight.
Wow, that is a long shift.
And we got winds up to, I guess we got winds in Lafayette up to about 130 miles an hour.
Wow.
And I was patrolling until trees and power lines and stuff like that started falling. And when that happened, I found me a big cement parking lot. And I went out and sat in the middle of that parking lot. And I guess we had been 10-8 for probably 20 hours then. And I had my arm on my armrest, and I had my head, I was resting my head on my hand and half asleep. And a gust of wind hit that truck and knocked my arm off that armrest. I looked up and my whole truck was rocking, and I was plugged in. I got my second wind when that happened.
Gosh.
Now, was there looting and things like that afterwards during that storm?
Not here. That happened a lot in Baton Rouge and New Orleans.
Yeah.
But down here we didn't have too much of that. New Orleans flooded during Katrina and Gustav, and it was a lot of looting going on down there. I mean, the police was fighting a losing battle down there, and some of the police even turned on the dark side. And yeah, they started looting themselves. I guess they said we'll join them.
Can't beat them, join them. Yeah,
turned into pirates.
Yeah. But that was a bad time for New Orleans. We didn't have that much looting stuff here in Baton Rouge. Everything was pretty much peaceful, except for the flooding. No, that was about it. But All in all, I guess it's been a good ride. I've never had to fatally kill anybody or anything like that. So I wouldn't go back on the street now for nothing in the world. They couldn't pay me enough to be back on the street.
Well, they don't pay us enough either.
It's just no respect for law enforcement no more. It's a whole different world.
I agree with that.
Yeah, but yeah, it's been quite a ride.
It sounds like it. You've had a good long career. Now you're still doing some work with the.
You're in a similar position, but not don't have to deal so much with the public.
Yeah.
Right. I've been to too many law enforcement funerals. I hope I don't have to go to another one.
I agree.
I agree.
Into that.
We've been through 2, and I hope that's 2 more than I wanted to go through. Yeah. So I hope we don't go through any more.
Yeah. It happens, especially down here. One year, I don't remember exactly when it was. It was several years ago. We had a deputy sheriff killed in Kenjabaho Parish, and they was escorting the body from the church to the cemetery, and they come into a real bad storm on their way to the cemetery.
I remember that.
And a tree fell across one of them units, and it was 2 deputies in there. He killed one of them, and the other one was in critical condition. They had to medically retire, but there you go again. That was escorting one of them home,
I remember
crazy way
when
to
that
go,
happened. Yeah, I remember that. I sure do.
Yeah.
That's just that's just freak accident right there.
Yep, that it is. It sure is. But I'm like I said, I've seen my share. I've seen more than I wanted to see.
Yeah, we all have. That's for sure. But you come through unscathed. Looks like you're, other than probably the mental stuff of it, but physically you're doing good. That's a good thing.
Oh yeah, like I said, I've never seriously been injured or anything like that. Never been shot, thank God. But like I say, it's been a ride, and
you never did pull no pranks on nobody.
Our own officers, we used to. I mean, we used to. Back when they had the, I'm sure y'all remember the baby moon hookouts and stuff like that. The police had. Back when we was driving Dodge Diplomats and Plymouth Grand.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was in the early '80s.
Yeah.
We used to put rocks inside the hubcaps. We do that to our shift lieutenant, and one time we jacked up the back end of his car where the tires was just touching the ground. It wasn't really touching, and we went in and told him we had a real bad call. And he was kind of a kick-ass lieutenant, and he run out there, and he was parked in the Sally Port. This was in Lafayette. He run out there and jumped in that Diplomat and cranked it up and put it in drive and got on the accelerator, and it was just sitting there. Stuff like that, we had, this was in the military. We had one guy that was bad about leaving the keys in his unit when we get to the scene. he'd leave the keys in the unit, leave it running and unlocked. And we was on a burglar alarm one night, and he pulled up there and left his unit running and left it unlocked, and we got in it and drove around to the back of the building, and he come out and couldn't find his car. And, well,
That's happened numerous times here.
I was going to say that must be a pretty common prank among officers. We've done that to Richie a lot.
He started wondering where his car was. I was like, I don't know, partner. You better call the lieutenant and tell him somebody's.
Oh, it's funny.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, we've pulled pranks like that, not on the general public, mainly amongst us.
Oh, that's the best. That's the memories.
Mm-hmm.
You got to leave the public alone. They're sensitive.
They are sensitive.
It's. I mean, I enjoyed it. It's been a nice time, but
would you go back and do it all over again?
Negative.
even if times were different than what they are now.
Yeah. Like I say, I lost a lot of good friends along the way.
Yes.
And the way things are right now with the world, no, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it no more.
You'd have went on to Texas, went into IT, huh?
Yeah. I know what I knew now.
That dang chief. Oh, listen, this has been a fun podcast. Now we want to come down there. We got to come down and visit you.
Y'all welcome anytime, man. Pack your bags and come on.
I'm down. I'm down.
We'll come. We got to find us a good hole in the wall where we can get some good,
some crawfish.
Good
stuff.
crawfish.
But
and
I tell you, of all Louisiana is the only southern state I've not been to, so I have to go.
Is that right?
Yep, I've got to check that one off my list, and that's it. Other than that, I've been to everything except minus like Montana and stuff. I still got to get to, but of all the southern states, that's the only one.
Really?
Yep, I made it. I was close, and I should have went, but I was just trying to get home too quick.
I drove cross country for a year in tractor trailer, and we was running about 500 miles a week.
Jeez.
And we'd stay out for 5 weeks straight, and come in for 1 week, and back out for another 5 weeks. But the first 4 months I had been in all 48 states.
Wow.
The first 4 months.
Gosh.
So that was good. My trucking career didn't work out real well either.
So you never did make it to Hawaii then?
I found out real quick truck driving wasn't my career. The first guy I started running with, him and I was good to go. He this was in 03, 04, between 03 and 04. He liked NASCAR, and he liked law enforcement, and I love NASCAR. And so he was interested in hearing some of my law enforcement stories. And, so we got along great. And we, I think it was in February 1 year, we was going to Los Angeles. And we had a load to deliver in Los Angeles, and then after we delivered that load, we was going to Daytona Beach, Florida.
Jeez.
And he was in good with the dispatcher. So the dispatcher hooked us up with a load out of Daytona Beach. So we was going to go watch the Daytona 500. And after the race, we was going to go and pick up that load. Well, we was on our way to L.A. and I was driving coming through Nevada, and the owner, he was sleeping in the sleeper, and during the night, I hit something in the interstate. I don't know if it was a piece of steel or what it was, but when I hit it, I felt the tire hit it, and after that, the steering wheel would shake. It'd shake for shimmy like for 5 seconds, and then it'd drive straight a mile, and then it would shimmy again. And I woke him up, and he pretty well knew the United States pretty good. I woke him up, a guy by the name of Ricky. I woke him up. I said, Ricky, I said, I'm sorry to wake you up, man. I said, but there's something wrong with this truck. I said, the steering wheel's shimmying. And he looked up, see where we are. He said, well, when you get down to milepost 140, he says, pull over. He says, we'll check it out. He said, they got a truck stop there. We'll check the truck out. I said, all right. So we pulled over at that truck stop. We checked the entire front end of that truck, tire rise, the tires, everything, and we couldn't find nothing wrong with it. So we refilled. We had 250-gallon tanks, one on the side. We refilled the tanks and got back on the interstate, took off, and he got back in the sleeper to go to sleep. And we was kind of running behind time a little bit. He said, if it starts shimmying again, when you get down to milepost 120, it's another truck stop down there. He said, pull over and we'll have a mechanic check it. I said, okay. He said, if it doesn't shimmy, he said, between now and 120, just keep rolling. I said, all right. So we got back on the interstate. I took off, and between 140 and 120, it never shimmied. I said, well, I'll keep rolling. So I kept on rolling, and I got down to the 105, 15 miles further, and I had the cruise control set at 75. That's what the speed limit was. And I pulled out in the left lane, and I passed a car. And as I was coming back into my lane, that driver's side steer tire blew out. And when it blew out, I got on the brakes, and when I hit the brakes, that truck started swerving from lane to lane all over the interstate. So I got off the brakes, and by that time he was up in the cab with me. When that tire blew up, the explosion woke him up. So he got in the front cab, and he knew exactly what happened. He said, you blew a steer tire. He said, just stay off the brakes and let the truck coast to a stop. And I said, okay. He said, as soon as you can, get on the side of the interstate and pop the air brakes. I said, all right. So I guess it took probably a mile and a half, and I got it on the side of the interstate, popped the air brakes. We jumped out of it, and what happened was that driver's side tire, the sparks from the rim caught that tire on fire. And when that center belt come off of that tire, it wrapped around the driver's side frame rails where the fuel filters was mounted, and it caught the fuel filters on fire. Jeez. And we hit it with a fire extinguisher. Got the fire extinguisher, and we opened up with that fire extinguisher, and that fire extinguisher didn't phase it. When that fire extinguisher didn't phase it, I threw that fire extinguisher in the median, and I took off running for the back of the truck. Had my cell phone calling 911, and Ricky was trying to get back in the truck. Pretty much everything we owned was inside that truck, and he was trying to get back inside the truck. And I told Ricky, I said, don't worry about that shit, man. That shit can be replaced. This truck's fixing it. He opened up the driver's door to get in, and when he did, flames was coming through the floorboard. And so he run around on the passenger side. On the passenger side of that sleeper, it had an escape hatch on it, and he opened up that escape hatch, and we had both of our overnight bags sitting right there by that door. He opened up that escape hatch and grabbed our overnight bags and threw them out, and he took off running for the back of the trailer where I was. And no sooner than he got to the back of that trailer, the driver's side tank blew.
Oh.
And I guess it was about probably 30 seconds after that, the passenger side tank blew. So that was right at 300 gallons of diesel. So that ended my driving career with him.
I would imagine so.
He had another truck on the road that had a team on it. But you know, he wasn't gonna pull them off the road. You know, his wife had just had a baby, and she used to drive with him. And when she had the baby, she quit driving, and that's when I started driving with him. But after that happened, she didn't want him back on the road. So that, like I say, that ended my career with him. And then I started driving with another company out of Memphis, Tennessee. Swift, y'all probably know.
Yeah, we're familiar with Swift.
Well, I went to Memphis to meet my driver, and I got up there and met him, and he was a black dude, and he had a load that was delivering in Memphis, and then we was going to Arkansas and get a load. But he wanted to go on home time after that Arkansas load. He was going to go on home time, so he didn't want to go to Arkansas to pick that load up. He wanted to deliver that load in Memphis and go home. So he said, let's go walk to the dispatcher and see if we can get somebody to take that load in Arkansas. He said, man, I don't want to go to Arkansas. I want to go home. I said, all right. So we walking across to the dispatcher, and he says, look, dude, he said, after a long, hard day at work, he said, I'd like to have a nice cold beer, you know. I said, yeah, man, I don't see nothing wrong with that, you know. And he said, all right. We walked a little bit further, and he says, look, dude, he said, I got this little chick in the truck, you know. And I said, yeah. He said, yeah. And I said, okay. He said, you see her, but she's not really there. And I'm kind of scratching my head now, you know, and I'm going, okay. And he said, you hear her, but she doesn't say anything. And I'm going, what the hell is going on here? This dude got an imaginary girlfriend or what? You know? And so I said, yeah, man, that's cool, you know. So we go to the dispatch, and they said, nope, we ain't got nobody else to take that load in Arkansas. Y'all gonna have to go get it. He said, all right. So we walked back. It was right at noontime then. He said, let's go get some lunch. The load that we were supposed to deliver in Memphis, it had like a 3-hour window that it didn't deliver until 3 hours later. So he said, let's go get some lunch. I said, all right. So we got in the truck, and he's got this lot lizard in the truck. And that's what we call them, lot lizards.
Yeah,
That's what we call them too.
Yeah. We go to Popeye, and we get some chicken, and we eat lunch. And he's got one of these mini refrigerators in the sleeper. And he climbs back in that sleeper, and he opens it up, and that refrigerator was so crammed full of beer that it all fell out in the sleeper. And he picks up a beer, and he opens it. He said, "You want a beer?" I said, nah, dude. I said, I'm good. And he said, well, I want one. I said, all right. So he starts drinking. And he's driving at that time, you know. And he says, let's go to this place in that this load delivers to and see if they'll take it early. And I said, okay. So we go to the terminal, and they tell us, no, sorry, Charlie, you're gonna have to wait till you turn. You have to park in staging, and we'll call you on the radio when we're ready for you. And so we park in the staging, and he grabs another beer. You want a beer? I said, no, man. I said, I'll be honest with you. I don't drink. He said, well, I do. He drunk like, I guess he drunk like 3 or 4 beers while we was sitting there at the staging area. And I said, man, this guy's got to drive to Arkansas. You know, I said, this ain't good. And so we finally delivered our load, and we take off for Arkansas, and he gives me a set of earphones. He said, you might want to put these on so you can get some sleep. I was going to drive back from Arkansas. And he said, you might want to put these earphones on, earplugs on in, so you can get some sleep. He said, I like my music a little loud. And I said, all right. So I get back into sleep and put my earplugs in, and I want to tell you, the walls of the Freightliner were vibrating. I mean, I'm hearing boom, 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 and I said, man, I gotta listen to this shit all the way to Arkansas. The dude is steadily drinking, man. And I'm praying now, please God, just let us make it down. So we get to Arkansas, we pick up that load, and we're headed back. Now I'm driving. I said, well, no, we all right now. And we still on a 2-lane highway coming from that terminal. We hadn't got to the interstate yet. And we're coming up on one of the stopping robs. So him and the flight listener get out and use the bathroom. So I pulled over on the side of the highway and let him out. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. So I called my wife and I said, this dude was from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And like I say, he was going on home time after that load. So I told my wife, I said, get your ass to Hattiesburg, Mississippi to pick this up. I said, I'm getting off of this truck. And told her the circumstances, you know. So while that dude was going on home time, you know, let me back up a minute. I was planning on shit do, you know. And I'm thinking to myself, what can I do here, you know? Because, yeah, I mean, y'all know alcohol's not allowed in commercial vehicles.
Right.
So I said, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I said, when I get on the interstate, I'm going to put this son of a bitch to the floor. And I ain't stopping for weight stations. I ain't stopping for nothing. And I want a trooper to stop me, right? I said, because if a trooper stops me, I'm going to tell him, you better check this ice chest and check this dude here because he's DWI to the max. And so they come out, I get on the interstate, and I take off, and I'm running probably 90, 100 miles an hour. You won't believe this, but every weight station between Arkansas and Memphis was closed. I said, yeah, that's just my luck. And here I am doing 90, 100 miles an hour, and I never got stopped.
Never met a trooper or nothing. Yeah.
So when we got back to his hometown in Hattiesburg, that dude dropped that trailer off in the parking lot, and so we were running bobtail then. So we go to one of the stopping robs. refills that refrigerator. He had drunk our refrigerator full of beer. And so he had to stop and refill the refrigerator. And said, well, since you're going on home time, I'm going to go ahead and go home too. And see you in a couple of days. and my wife come pick me up, and that was it. That was the end of my truck driving with him. I wrote a 7-page statement to the safety director of Swift Transportation. And I said, I'm telling you, with 30 years experience, you better get this dude off the road because he's going to kill somebody.
That might be why Swift has so many accidents.
I said, you better get this guy off the road. I'm telling you, with 30 years law enforcement experience, this guy's going to kill somebody, you know? And had another friend of mine that he was a third-party CDL examiner for one of the truck driving academies here. And I had known him about 5 years, and I asked him if he wanted to run cross-country with me. He said, yeah. He said, I'll run cross-country with you. So him and I started running cross-country together. I thought I knew him. And we take off and, you know, running cross country together. And I find out that he's on all kind of narcotics for he's on narcotics for depression and anxiety. And at one point, his medical certificate had been suspended, you know, for being on narcotics. And we out there on the West Coast in the mountains, I'm saying, man, what the hell am I doing out here on these mountains? What crazy dude, you know?
Oh my gosh!
You've had some terrible luck.
Trucking wasn't for you.
He's driving one day, you know, and we out on the West Coast, and his phone rings, and he picks it up, and it's his girlfriend. His girlfriend is telling him that she's cheating on him and this and that, and then I'm going, oh God.
He's going off a cliff.
You know, so we, I'm driving at this point, and it's nighttime, and we're coming into Seattle, Washington, and it's snowing like all get out. I mean, it's snowing so hard you couldn't see you couldn't hardly see the front end of your truck. And I'm doing 20, 25 miles an hour on the interstate with the flashers, with the emergency flashers on. And everybody was in the right lane on the interstate because the left lane was piled up probably about 4 or 5 feet deep in snow.
Gosh.
They was plowing. It was a blizzard. They was plowing the interstate, but it was snowing so heavy that it was covering it right back up. And I'm going along in that right lane, and a crosswind hit that truck from the passenger side, and it blew that truck into that snowbank in that left lane like it was a tinker toy. I got that truck back in that right lane, and as soon as I got it back in that right lane, if it had been anybody in that left lane on the side of me, I'd have smushed him like a pancake. I got that truck back in that right lane, and I had my mind made up right then. I said, if I ever get my ass back to Louisiana, that's where I'll stay. So we get out of Seattle. It took me all night to drive through Seattle. We get out of Seattle, and the snow lets up. It's still snowing, but it's very light. And I had run out of hours, so it wasn't my co-driver's time to drive. So we pull over on the side of the interstate. We change drivers and catch our log up, and we take off. he takes off driving, and I climb in the sleeper, and I hadn't even got to sleep yet. I had been in there maybe 30 minutes, and he starts hollering at me, Chris. So I jumped up in the cab. I said, what's the matter, man? He said, Rose, it's getting bad, man. He said, this weather's getting bad. I just come through a damn blizzard, and it's barely snowing. And he said, this weather's getting bad, man. He said, I don't want you back there in that sleeper in case we slide off of one of these mountains. And I said, man, pull this truck over. I said, I'm driving back. I said, you talking about sliding your ass off of one of these mountains? Pull your ass over. I'm driving back. And that was my last journey driving a truck.
I don't blame you a bit there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That was quite an experience. But yeah, I've seen a lot of places I probably wouldn't have saw. Like I say, had been driving through all the states. I guess we were lucky to get out of that one where that truck burned up.
Oh yeah.
They claim when a steer tire blows out, you end up generally turning it over.
Yeah.
When the steer tire blows out. So I'm glad that didn't happen, and we all got out all right. But that trip there, with my NASCAR partner, we was to deliver that load to L.A. and he was going to buy a brand new truck. Going to Daytona, and that truck had 1,039,000 miles on it when it cost.
Gosh,
1,039,000 miles.
Gosh.
It'd been around the country then several times, sounds like.
Better believe it.
Did you ever make it to Hawaii?
No, never. Like I said, when I was coon, it was 3 days before. Now I had a trip. It was a trip going up there to Korea, because I flew from my hometown. Well, the nearest airport to Oakdale is in Alexandria, so I flew out of Alexandria to Dallas Fort Worth. Then I flew out of Dallas-Fort Worth to Seattle, Washington. And we were supposed to fly out of Northwest on Northwest Airlines at 747 out of Seattle. Well, the journey started in Dallas. When we got to Dallas, I flew Delta from Alexandria to Dallas, and I was flying Braniff Airlines from Dallas to Seattle. Braniff, I don't believe is in business anymore, but if I recall right, the plane was supposed to leave like 2:00 that evening, going to Seattle, and I got there about 12:00 noon. And it was a switch from Delta to Braniff. I said, well, I got a couple of hours. I'll stop and get me a hamburger, get something to eat before I go to the Braniff terminal. And got off at the Delta terminal, and they had the signs up there. I never forget the flight. It was Braniff Flight 188. And Delta had their signs up there, Braniff Flight 188. Scheduled departure was 2:00, 15-minute delay. Departure is at 2:15. And I said, well, that's a little bit better, So I got to the Braniff terminal, and they got their signs up there, and their board is flashing. Flight 188, and it's flashing now boarding. I said, what? I took off running for the gate. and I got to the gate just in time to watch my plane back up. I said, I asked the gate agent, I said, what's the deal here? I said, that plane's not supposed to leave for another hour, and they said, yeah, we know. Said, Brenner changed their flight time on us this morning and we didn't have time to notify anybody. And I said, well, that's real good, and then you need to go talk to the people at the Delta terminal. So I went back to the Delta terminal, and they said, "Yeah, we didn't have time enough to notify anybody." And I said, "Well, how y'all going to get me to Seattle?" And they looked through their stuff, and they said, "Sorry, we can't get you to Seattle until tomorrow." And I said, "Well, I tell you what you can do." I said, "You can call that colonel at McCord Air Force Base and tell him I can't be there." I said, "I got a mandatory protocol that I got to meet today." And they said, "Well, hold on a minute." And so they looked again and they said, "Well, the only way we can get you there today is we can fly you from here to Los Angeles and then from Los Angeles to Seattle." I said, "Well, book me on the flight. I've got to be there today." Uncle Sam don't take no for an answer. And they was nice about it. They flew us first class. They flew me first class to Los Angeles and then to Seattle. Well, like I said, when we got to Seattle, we were supposed to fly Northwest 747 to Korea. We get to Seattle and Northwest is on strike. They load us all up on a military bus and took us to McCord Air Force Base, and we flew to Korea on a C-141 cargo transport plane.
Sitting in the car, were you sitting in cargo seats or on the side, looking at each other?
Yeah. Yes, it wasn't no seats on there. It's just cargo nets.
Oh yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, just cargo nets down both sides, and it was hot as hell, when we got on. And I said, I asked the pilot, I said, "Man, this thing got air conditioning in it?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "We got air conditioning, but we got to get up to cruising altitude before we can turn it on." I said, "That's good." And I said, "Well, I'll just lay back and go to sleep, once we get airborne." Well, if you ain't been on a 141, you're not going to sleep on a 141. So we flew from Seattle to Anchorage, Alaska. And we landed in Anchorage, refueled, and then we journeyed on to Chungcheon, Korea on that 141. Yeah. Yep, and that was a trip.
That sounds terrible.
I flew a C-130 from Camp Pendleton to Ketchikan, Alaska. It's the worst flight I've ever been on. Worst.
Yeah. When I was stationed at Eglin Air Force Base, we used to fly rescue missions out of a C-130. When the Devil's Triangle was real big back then, and the Bermuda Triangle, whatever you want to call it.
Oh yeah.
But anytime they would go looking for a missing ship or missing plane or something like that, three of us would have to go on from law enforcement, and then three paratroopers was on it, and we'd fly. They call you in the middle of the shift and tell you go to 10-7 and be back on the flight line for 5 a.m. for a rescue mission.
Oh my gosh!
They called me one day during the shift, and they said go 10-7, be back on the flight line for 500 for a rescue mission. I said, all right. So get on the plane, and like I say, it's that 130 search plane, and get on that plane. So we have headsets, we can talk to one another. I asked the pilot, I said, where we going this morning? He said, we're going to the Devil's Triangle. I said, yeah, that's real good.
On a C-130.
Got disaster written all over it.
Oh my gosh.
Going to the Devil's Triangle, we're looking for a missing ship. I said, yeah, okay. And but we got right before we got to the triangle that the Coast Guard called us, and Coast Guard told us they was going into the triangle, and they just wanted us to fly the perimeter of the triangle. I said, yep, sounds good to me, buddy. Let's go.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, we just flew the outskirts of the triangle. We didn't go into the triangle, which pleased me.
With the luck you've had over the time, it sounds like it's the best thing that could have happened.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like I say, so I flew on 130s and 141 and a Huey. When I was with my DPS, we had an inmate that we had to transport by air ambulance to New Orleans that was in critical condition. And I met the helicopter on the helipad and here in Baton Rouge, and pilot says, he said, you ever been in a chopper before? I said, man, the last time I was in a chopper was a Huey. It's a little bit different than a Huey. He said they had the 5-point safety harnesses and all that in that chopper, in that airman chopper, and he said, you know how these 5-point harnesses work? I said, I don't even think we had seatbelts in them Hueys. No, I don't know how that 5-point harness works. He showed me how it worked and everything, but it was all good. A lot different from being in that Huey.
Oh my gosh. Well, you've lived a life, that's for sure.
Yeah, what a journey.
Yeah, it's been a fun time. I'm pleased with the outcome so far.
Good.
Well, listen, Chris, I've thoroughly enjoyed.
This has been fun.
This
It's been and y'all had to come down and get some of this Cajun food, man.
I'm all about it. It's definitely on the bucket list.
We're coming. Thank you so much. This has been a blast, an absolute blast.
Yeah, same here. I appreciate it.
No problem. We appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us.
All right, anytime.
All right.
Chris, give me a call or a shout anytime, brother. I enjoy talking with you.
Okay, same here, Doug. I appreciate it.
All right. If you get up to Kentucky, give me a shout.
We'll do that. You get down here.
You get that big fifth wheel and you start traveling around now. You can.
Yeah, we might make it up that way one day.
Yep. All right, brother.
Thank you so much.
All right.
All right, Chris. Have a good one.
All right. Enjoyed it. Yeah, y'all have a good one, too.
Right.
See you, brother.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Catch us on the next one.